if you could just introduce yourself and just to share a little bit of background as to what your journey has looked like from the start to where you are now as an athlete.
Okay, yeah, sure. So basically, it all started at 2012. I just with the London Olympics, and like most people, just watch it. They don't know much about it. So anyway, I had no sporting background. I used to play five-a-side football once a week with some friends just to kick about. So I watched the triathlon one day on the TV, and I was like, oh, this is really good. Like, I had no clue what was going on. And I just remember being inspired by the Brownlees. Just they did 3 disciplines. And I remember I used to run when I was at school. So I was like, well, maybe I should start going back into running. And I did a sport relief mile. Didn't really train for it, but I really enjoyed it. So when I saw the Olympics, I thought, well, maybe I should do something. And my friend who just recently done a 10K run in 55 minutes, he comes up to me and he says, oh, should we join a running club? I've sprinted this 10K recently. Obviously, he didn't sprint, but he said, "Shall we go and join a race?" And I said, join a club." So I said, "Yeah, why not?" We looked at clubs, and then we joined the Canterbury Harriers Running Club, which I'm now the interim head coach of. So that was back in September 2012. So that was my journey, really, how I started. And then I started running more and started training, but obviously it was quite new to it. And the idea was to do a triathlon. So I started training, and then I started getting a lot of calf injuries. And in 2013, I did a local triathlon, Canterbury Triathlon, and basically I turned up injured, doing too much too soon. My calf wasn't right, and I finished the race, but I actually tore my calf as if someone just got a knife and went in the back of the calf like that. So that kept me out 6 months on and off. So I had that roughly for 2013. So I kept coming back, and every 6 weeks kept getting injured again, and then I saw the right physio, and then I started getting faster, started learning, and then the following year I ended up again trying for triathlon, but I ended up damaging my Achilles, and that kept me out for 3 months without doing it. I couldn't do anything on it, which didn't. 3 months not doing anything didn't help at all with it, because of rest doesn't help with Achilles. So that's an ongoing problem. I still have to deal with that Achilles problem now. So I'm able to manage it. So that was that, and then I decided to knock the triathlon off the head, really. Well, just knock it off and not do it really. I was convinced the bike was damaging my legs, so that was that. And then started concentrating more on running, and then in 2015, where I'd been swimming quite regularly, so I couldn't swim. So just go back quickly to 2012. I couldn't swim, so I started swimming then as well. And that year I turned up to a triathlon class, and the swim teacher said to me, "Why are you swimming?" Because I was doing that. "Why have you got goggles on?" And I said, "Well, you're meant to have goggles." She said, "But you're not putting your face in the water." So she showed me a technique. So I started just swimming casually for like a couple of times a week, just to help to mix it up. And then in 2015, I got really a lot better at swimming, and I was training a bit better, and it was helping my running. So and I went through injury-free period for quite a while, and then came back off my honeymoon. I said to my wife, I'm going to do an aquathlon. So I was severely jet lagged. I was told not to, but I was doing a sports study at the time, and he told me not to. I was going to get injured. So I did it. I loved it. I got hooked because I had some of the gear anyway from triathlon. So I had a basic wetsuit. I loved it, and got hooked. I think I finished 5th or 6th, and I learned a lot just on that one race, like about tying my shoelaces. I must have tied them up about 10 times during the race. So that lost me a lot of time. And it was a bit of friendly competition with a friend who was into triathlons at the time. So that was that. And then by the end of the year, I was like 2.5 minutes quicker, and I was getting a few podiums. So I looked into the GB age group and how to qualify. And the GB age group's always changing the qualifying criteria. So sometimes you have to go to national championships. Sometimes you have to win a local race, etc. So things like that. So I thought, well, let's give a aquathlon a try. So I qualified. I submitted my application. I qualified for a race I did in September, and then 2016 was a really big season for me. I had to get a triathlon coach just to needed to improve my swimming really. I'm a running coach, so I did my running myself and learned from my previous mistakes and stuff. And I qualified for the 2016 Aquathlon European Championships in Châteauroux in France. And 2 weeks prior to that, I had decided to race the National Aquathlon Championships. So that was my first big race. I only did local races. And that was at the part of the World Triathlon Series in Leeds. And I turned up and just blown away, like the amount of people doing it. It was absolutely like, I was nervous. I was a nervous wreck. Not used to anything like it. And I put the first thing I remember, the race started, and I got my swim goggles knocked off, and I just managed to catch them and put them back on. So that was lucky. And came onto the run, and didn't expect to get anywhere, and I came third in my age group, so I was over the moon by that. So then I was ready for like the European Championships. I started that. Again, nervous wreck, called out my name, turned up on my wave, and I was absolutely like, bottling it. Complete nervous wreck, to be honest. Race started, and came out of the where it was a lake, came out into transition. I noticed the people in my race, I was the last in last out into transition and out. So I was panicking because the main thing I wanted to do was just not come last. I just wanted to enjoy it, but not come last. That was my target. So I got onto the run, and I was just determined to go for it. And it was probably one of my best races because I ran really well that day. And I remember picking off people all the way, and I caught up these two people, one GB athlete and one from Slovakia, I think, and they were battling each other, and they didn't know I was behind them, and I was convinced that was for a podium place. And I had 400 meters to go, and I thought, what do I do? And I just gritted my teeth, clenched my fist, and said, I've just got to go for it. If I collapse, I collapse. I've tried. And there's photos somewhere of me. You can see me looking behind right near the finish line, and I was absolutely exhausted. But I found out it was third place when I finished, and I was over the moon. I couldn't believe it. I was shocked. And then so that was that. Then off the back of that, I qualified. Well, off the back of the national championships, I qualified for the World Aquathlon Championships at the end of the year, September, in Cozumel, Mexico. So I had to go to it. I thought I'd go for it. Worst race ever. Probably what I learned from that race was that control what you can control. So don't panic, don't get nervous. It's good to be nervous, but don't be overly nervous, and only control what you can. So what actually happened? So I was in fairly good shape, and apart from, I remember rightly, my Achilles was niggling me that week. But anyway, so it turned up the day before the race to find out that we're on the main island, that there's no ship in the morning or ferry across to the island. And so there was like 3,000 athletes who was part of the World Triathlon Final Championships, and there was all the pros and the elites and stuff. So I turned up and I spoke to the team manager, went to the island to register and stuff, found out there's no boat. What do we do? Because we had to try and find a hotel. Managed to find a hotel. It wasn't a great accommodation, but I was on my feet all day long. Went to the opening parade ceremony. That was quite good. So I woke up the following day for the race at like 5:30 in the morning. I was absolutely shattered. The race was disaster, but I learned a lot of things from there. So that was my journey into that. And then 2017, I represented the European Aquathlon Championships. They were in Bratislava. I had an injury leading up to it, first injury for a long time. But it was funny because I thought my running was going to let me down, but it wasn't. It was actually my swimming. I think consciously in my mind, I was like thinking, should I should I rest the legs and don't kick as much? So it was actually my running that let me down. I finished 9th, so I was happy with that. And then I had the national championships again. I was back in Leeds. I came 2nd, so I was over the moon in my age group. And then I compete at the end of the year. Went to Penticton, which is the most beautiful place in Canada. And I was actually asked to be a team captain for a team. So I was a team captain for at the World Championships for the aquathlon team. And there were 68 of the whole entire team, 68 members. And I arranged like swim recce's, run recce's, meals before the race. And we had some activities. I really enjoyed it. I felt really privileged to do it. And it was probably one of my best races at the World Championships. I came 6th, so it was a good race. 218 was a fairly good season again as well. Another great top 10 in the World Championships in Denmark. But probably the most notable was that I decided that I wanted to give triathlon a go. So I started cycling only twice a week. So it's the first time I got back on the bike. Started doing that February in 2018, and I only did one triathlon, which was in the end of the season, practically September. I'll tell you about that in a sec. But leading up to it, I won the National Aquathlon Championships in Peterborough in my age group, so I was over the moon. I team captained at the European and the World Championships again, so I was really happy with that. So I had a really good season. Turned up to this triathlon, thinking, should I move to triathlons the following year? And I remember it being really choppy in the sea, so fortunately they cut the swim by about 300 meters roughly. So I like outdoors swimming. I train a lot outdoors, so that's my strong point and where I've got better over the years. So that was that. And I came out in second in the swim, but into transition first. Overtook them on the run, got on the bike, and I found it quite challenging. But I was holding 3rd place for quite a while, and it was only at the end I had people draft me. I didn't know the rules, and that so I knew that you weren't allowed to draft. So I stayed away from a group of 5 or 6. But what I noticed as well is that I'm a strong runner, so my legs were screaming when I came out on the run, and I ended up picking up places, and I took 3rd and not back, and I was quite comfortable for 3rd. But then all of a sudden we got to about 400 meters from the end, and I remember keep pushing, and people just coming backwards. Like the guy in 2nd place, I just breezed past him, and then I was catching 1st place. I could have won that race. So I was really happy, and it was a local race, so that sort of set my triathlon journey of 2019. In regards to what changes I made in 2018 was that I got a new swim coach. So I trained myself for the World Championship about 5-6 weeks before the World Championships in Canada, because I wasn't happy with my coach, and I wasn't getting anywhere. 217, I wasn't getting any faster. So 218, I had a new coach. I also had a friend that helped me with running as well. So 219 was my best ever season. So I'm waffling long, but there's so much to say. Is this all right?
That's fine. Absolutely fine. Carry on.
Okay,
I'm mesmerised by it.
So 219, I decided that this would give my life. I'll give triathlon a real good shot. I'll do the triathlon, and the aquathlons would be the last ones, and I'll take a year out and hopefully qualify for the triathlon team. And that was my ultimate goal. Like seeing it on the telly in 2012 was a dream come true, and I never thought I was good enough. So it would have been a dream come true. So I decided I kept my swim coach, John Wood, who's a fantastic coach. I had another swim coach locally because he's based in Bristol, so I live in Canterbury, so who trains GB swimmers. So she's really good, and she helped me with my technique. So I do that on a Wednesday night once a week, a master's session, and then the rest I get trained by John. So that was a big change. Also I had my friend decided we'd work together and coach myself completely for this season and see how it goes. So I turned up. So I started doing more cycling. So I was I was cycling 3 times a week. So I went. So I managed to. I run 4 times a week. Well, at the time I was running 4 times a week, swimming 4 times a week, and cycling 3 times a week and 2 strength sessions. Typical week, training week. So I did that, and then we turned up to in May I had the World Championships in Pontevedra, and it wasn't my sole focus, so I decided just to see how it went. I learned things, as I said, like I'm a little bit nervous at race day, but the night before I relax now. I don't do anything on my feet, and I just chill out in the hotel room. I know it's a bit boring, but and watch some motivational videos and films and stuff, and listen to music. So I'm ready for the following day. So I'm fresh. Always rest before race day. I turned up and did the race, and I finished as seventh, which the first British guy back and seventh in my age group. So I was over the moon with that. So it was actually probably my better result because there was a lot more in my race than previous races. So it was like 3 times the amount. So it was quite good. So that set me up, and then came back home for 2 days, and then went straight off to Spetses in Athens to do my first triathlon of the year, and that was in Greece. So they wanted me over there to go and compete, and obviously I was really nervous. I didn't have my bike. They hired me a bike out there, so I didn't have my bike. And to be honest, the frame of the bike was good, but I don't know a lot about bikes because I don't come from a cyclist background, but it wasn't very good. The equipment they put on it, the chains and stuff like that, was all clunky. The gears was not. Anyway, that's not an excuse. So it was really good. They had all their like athletes from Olympics and stuff competing in various events and team relays. So I was quite privileged to do that. So I did the swim. I was actually swimming. We had a meal the night before, and I was talking to a blind swimmer and a guide from Cyprus who've won quite a few gold medals in the last Olympics. So I was talking to them, and they started next to me in the swim and clocked them, and I knew they were better swimmers. So I drafted them and stayed on them and came out. They were doing a team one, so I was in the triathlon. So I came out first in transition, side by side, basically. So that was really good. The bike let me down. Loads of people overtook me, and then on the run, I picked up some places. So I finished third in my age group and 11th. But I learned a lot from that race. That you have to always work hard at something for it to pay off, and I know that. And obviously, so that I changed the way I decided I want to do my training and work more on the bike. And so I focused on that more, and turned up to the National Triathlon Championships later on in the year, and to try and qualify for Great Britain sprint team in Malmo this year. So again, I came out with the lead pack in the water. So I was really happy with that, because I never used to be a strong swimmer, and obviously I couldn't swim. So it's taken years to get there, and it's only minimal gains you get, and then you see it when you look back over 6-7 years. You realise that you've made minutes of improvement, but each year it's only a few seconds. So that was that. Turned up, and I panicked on the bike. I was in good shape, but it started raining, and I eased off, and I caught a lot of places on the run. I missed out by automatic selection by 0.0%, 0.01%, so not even a percent. So I was quite hopeful I'd get a roll down place, and that was my first attempt for a big race. I came 11th from my age group, so I was really happy with that. And I found out I qualified. I got a roll down place for this year. Found out quite early on, so I was really happy, and like a dream come true. Obviously, I don't know if that's going to happen at the moment with coronavirus. And then later on, towards the end of the year, I had the European Aquathlon Championships. I was in the best shape of my life. About 4 or 5 days before, I developed a problem doing an interval session on my leg, my foot, and I thought I had a stress fracture. Couldn't walk on it, so I rested for 2 days. Had the physio a few days before I went off to the race, and he prodded along and stuff. I said, it's so painful. He saw me limping, and he said, I can't see anything wrong. We're go and run and see. He said, I can't feel anything wrong with it. So I went for a run, felt was painful, but wasn't any worse. And it eased off while I was running. Came back, he scanned it. There's nothing wrong. So mentally, I was like, okay, I'm going to turn up to this race. So, and I knew it was a good chance of me doing well. And I aimed to try and get in the podium because I was disappointed in previous times. And I tried to like push myself. So I came first, really over the moon because I never expected it when I started the journey. And I was really happy with first in my age group, a European champion. And then 2 weeks later, turned up. A lot of things went wrong the night before the race. I won't get into it because I've been waffling long. But a fire alarm went off and I didn't sleep the night before. But turned up to national championships and found it really tough, absolutely shattered. I was competing against a guy. I thought I had a bad swim, but I was competing against a guy that came second in the European Championships, and I was quite comfortably in front of him then, but we were quite towards the end. I was behind him, didn't know what to do again, and I thought, well, I'm going to try and play mind games, stick with him for a bit, and then I'm going to try and pull away. And I was absolutely shattered. I mean, if he pulled away, I wouldn't be able to go with him. So I pulled away, and I couldn't believe it. When I looked around, about 800 metres away from the finish line, I was pulling away quite a bit. Coming to the finish line, I looked around, he wasn't there, and I just was over the moon to defend the championship again. So that's really my background, and then now I'm concentrate fully on triathlon. But obviously, if that doesn't go ahead, I don't know what's going to happen this year. But so I've waffled a lot. And
no, not at all. It's amazing. You talk about watching motivational videos the night before races, and I'm just listening to that, thinking to myself, this is just the most incredible journey from somebody who watched the Olympics, and it seems to me through this kind of will to achieve an investment in yourself, you've created this journey for yourself. It hasn't been handed to you. You've worked through injuries. You've gone through various different coaches. You've invested in the areas that you see as development, and you have made these results come to you. It's all very well. Sometimes we see people that train through their life. They do running in college, whatever it might be, and then they progress. You have started from more or less a blank canvas, and you have realised this journey.
I started at 29, and I regret it. I mean, I regret it every day. I wish I could be younger, and I wish, at school I hated cross country. We used to do cross country a lot, but I did, when I was at school, we had an 800 metre race with the school, sports day. And one particular year I did, about 2 weeks beforehand, I went out for three runs. I think probably about 3 weeks, but 3 runs a week, only for about a mile. And I did really well on the sports day, but I just stopped. There's no background, nothing at school, that was it. And I just wanted to play football, wasn't any good at football. And then I got lazier and lazier and just wanted to do something.
Yeah, I mean, similar to you, I did a bit of stuff at sports day. Primary school, did 60 metres, 100 metres at secondary school, 200 metres. After that, I did nothing. And even me now, just taking up running, I have the same thoughts. If only I'd done it sooner. But then equally, you can draw upon experience of life, can't you? Sometimes when times get tough, having had that experience of various different things, you can use that to your advantage. And I think maybe that's where age does play a factor against maybe the naivety of being slightly younger.
Yeah, no, definitely. I mean, I've got a friend who's, he's about 25, but I met him when he was in his teens, from the running club. And what he was doing was unbelievable, stuff he was doing. He was getting injured so much. But as you said, it's experience. And I think every run that you do, everything you do, every session you do, every race you do, you learn something every time from it. And I'm learning all the time. Just every single race you're learning, and you learn a bit more about your body as well. So you know how to have good sessions. So for example, for me, I know when people say I've had a bad run or they keep having bad run, well, that's a symptom of overtraining or your training being completely wrong. Whereas back then I was running, when I was getting injured, I was running long runs, trying to run 7-minute miles. And then my long runs are now 7-minute miles, but a lower heart rate. So I must have been pushing it so hard back then when I wasn't running, and thinking I was doing the right things, and then ending up with serious injuries.
Exactly the same. I echo that. When I did my first marathon, I was was not adhering to these slow long runs at all. I was just aiming for marathon pace all the time.
Yeah.
Every run I did, marathon pace. And if it wasn't that, I felt like it was a bad run. If it was that, I felt like I was doing things right. But over time, I've realized that that is not the approach at all. And I wanted to talk to you a little bit about heart rate training, because I don't personally do it, but it's something that I've been exploring more. Through my training for an ultra, I realized how important those very relaxed, slow, long runs have been. It's benefited me hugely, and I feel like I missed a huge kind of void in my training because I'm self-taught. Essentially, I didn't see the massive benefits that are involved in that.
So I was the same. I went. So this happened in 2015. I went on a study with a guy that run. His name was Phil Anthony. And he ran London Marathon in 2016 off the back of this sort of training. He was a PhD student, a scientist, and he was looking for study. Just a little quick background about his study. His study actually found that most runners don't have a good running economy. And that is where you need to improve, where you can get greatest improvements. So most of his athletes that he had, test dummies or whatever you call them, all improved. My friend that I told you about, the 55-minute, he ran London that year in 2 hours 30 off the back of that training. So I self-taught. I wasn't a coach at the time, and I was like, so anyway, so I went on this study, and I was running half marathons regularly on a Saturday as a long run. I was running them at like 6 minutes, 6:30s, and I turned up to races, and I wondered why I was running every Saturday faster than what I was running my races. But my legs on the Saturday morning were on Sunday when I woke up, I would be knackered for the whole day. And then my legs were still being bits Tuesday when I've got a speed session. So that was happening. So I turned up. He put me through the VO2 mask and all that stuff and blah blah and all that. And he said to me, right, you're going to go and run in these zones. This is your zone 2, and you need to stick with it. And if you go any higher, go up on a hill or something, you either slow down or walk till you get it down. I phoned him up that day because I said to him, I'm running 8:30s. That's unbelievable. He said, no, don't worry. You've got it's a 12-week study. After 6 weeks, you'll see the improvement. And I was concerned, blah, like that. So that was that. And he said, don't worry about pace, just time on your feet. So for example, my long run would be an hour and a half, he worked out. So I'd add that for 9 weeks, for 3 weeks, add 9 minutes to that one. And then my other long run, which was an hour, add 6 minutes for 3 weeks and maintain it for 6 weeks. And then he tested and would test again. So what he found with me, that I had a really poor running economy. And although I improved hugely through the study, he also found that I was still really low. And that he said that 90% of people is where they don't realize that you can get faster, your endurance is stronger, and and you're not overtraining. So mainly, first thing is, if you're running your long runs too hard, you're overtraining, which I was doing. So not only did I start getting, like, within a week, my time started dropping, I started quite drastically going straight into 7:30 zones for a minute per mile. So I was so as I said, I was running 6:30, and I was just overtraining. That was race pace, and more like I'd come towards the end of a run, and I'd be staggering at 7 minutes. So that's obviously how wrong it was. So that was that. And not only that, I found I had so much more energy when I was running the harder speed sessions, that I was actually running a lot quicker as well. So I ended up getting a lot in 2015. I ended up getting a lot of PBs in running races. Like my times just drastically tumbled down. So I coach all my athletes I coach. The particular one I'm coaching at the moment, he came up to me and said, I'm running 6 days a week. I said, why do you want to run 6 days a week? He said, well, after. I said, well, what do you do with them 6 days? So he went through. I said, pace-wise, overtraining. Said, you're completely overtraining. And I said, you don't need to run. You can run 4 days a week and you'll get faster. And that was the case. And at the moment, he's running 3 really easy runs and one like hard session, and he's still improving. And you're talking about a runner who is a 43-minute 10K runner, but now running sub 40. So it's a big jump. So I'm very for heart rate training, and anyone that I train will do this sort of kind of training, and it's where you're going to get the biggest improvements. You don't have to run fast to run fast, if you get what I mean.
Yeah, it's really really struck a chord with me. I just hadn't expected it to, even though I'm not doing it following a strict plan because I don't know a lot about it. I'm still exploring myself. Even just stumbling into those slow long runs, I came off the back of a bit of training and just thought, for a bit of fun, I'll just do a fast 5K. My PB, I took 45 seconds off, which shocked me because I've done no speed work whatsoever. But it was more comfortable, and I wasn't getting home and feeling like my legs were falling off. I was just able to do more controlled sessions. But it's something that's really, really fascinating me. And hearing you talk about it in that way, I think it leads me on to a point when I would ask, how important is it to explore the idea of a running coach, or maybe the theory or the science behind it, rather than just heading out there and just trying to wing it?
Well, I having a running coach is really important. Any sort of coach is really good because you learn something. So the problem is, where I'm a running coach, I think of different ideas than another running coach, and so it's good to get new ideas. What people fall into a trap is that they think about pace too much. So just because they ran 7 minute 30 one day and felt really fine the following day, and then they try it again 2 days later, doesn't mean, and then they're knackered and they wonder why. They could be overtraining. So it's important, like heart rate, any sort of study that you can get on. A lot of universities do it for free if they want studies. Is beneficial, and I've done quite a lot. I do a couple of years, so that helps me a lot. But with heart rate, you've got to remember that not just anything can change your heart rate. Just because you feel good one day, you might not feel good the other day. So you could be stressed at work, or you could be stressful day. You might be feeling a bit under the weather. So things like that, or lack of sleep, all them factors will affect your heart rate. So if you go out and do so this is where people go wrong. So if you go out and say, right, I'm going to run 12 miles at 7:30 minute miles today, because I did that last week, and then you come back and you feel absolutely shattered, or you're in marathon training, you're saying, oh, my legs feel tired, I don't feel great today. That's an overtraining sign. So I think it's important that if you can get a running coach, or just talk to other people about it. I think it's beneficial to have a coach just to see like what you can learn from it. You don't have to have it all all the time. It depends what you want to get out of it. So I've got a cycling coach, Mark Shepherd, and he's training me in my running as well at the moment, because he's got ideas that I don't, but I might not have. So you learn from different coaches, but you pick up things throughout your years. But the main thing is, don't do something just because something worked one year, it won't work for the following year. Doesn't necessarily mean, and don't copy other people. So your own person, you've got to try and find what works for you, and change up things quite often.
With the heart rate, is it possible to do it using just a watch, or is there a requirement to have the heart rate straps? Is a watch sufficient for that, or is it just not quite accurate enough to do that job?
Well, it depends what watch you've got, because some watches have so some of the, for example, polar watches go through 4 stages of your into your. So if you're on about a wrist, are you on about a wrist watch?
Yeah, just as an example.
Yeah. So some of them are a bit more accurate, but it's always going to be more accurate on your chest. So it's important. People say go by feel, but it's good to go by feel. But then you might not necessarily be in the right, in the right zone and stuff. So I think it's important to have a heart rate strap for sure.
That's really, really interesting. Like I said, it's something that I personally want to explore. And I've started to see, especially on social media over the last 6 to 12 months, more people now focusing on heart rate. And the comments below it for people who haven't transitioned yet are you mad? This doesn't sound right. You're running slower. But then you look across that person's timeline, you look at pictures of their watch, pictures of their times,
Yeah.
and it's improving. And those people who are negatively commenting are starting, you see them again over time, come up and
Yeah.
say, interesting, I'll have a look myself, and
But
it's
it's all,
converting.
but also you've got to be careful as well when you look at the time. I sit in the club, in my club at the moment, and it's funny. One of my friends, he sends me. I'm not on Strava, but he sends me pictures, and he goes, "Look, they've done a heart rate run," and then they put our heart rate training again, zone 2, and then you look at their heart rate, and then you go look at their speed sessions, and he highlights them, and you look, well, no, they're overtraining, they're not doing it right, and then they're the same people that have the comments that are, "I'm absolutely shattered today." I mean, I I haven't had I know it sounds bad, but I haven't had a bad session where there's days I feel I don't want to train, but I haven't had a session where I've felt really horrible for a while, because I'm always feeling fresh and I'm sticking to the way I feel and the heart rate training as well.
It's really, really interesting. And also, going back to a point you said earlier about swimming impacting running, I'm seeing that as well at the moment. Obviously, in the current times, we can't explore going to swimming pools, but I'm starting to
Yeah.
see people who are reporting that by increasing the amount of swimming they're doing as cross training is actually influencing their ability to run and be stronger. Is that true? Did you find that yourself when you started?
I mean, I think there's some true. Yeah. The reason I did swimming to start off with was because I was told it helped your lung capacity, and also it's good to loosen off as well. But I've actually found, and I've heard from others, that it actually does. They do feel like they're getting quicker. But I feel with swimming, using different muscles, different breathing. I think the breathing technique as well is it has to be controlled. So if you're doing 3 strokes and then you breathe to your side, that is quite controlled. So I think that really helps with the running.
Like I said, there's so much that is coming out at the moment. It's just trying to think, especially for, let's say, an amateur runner like myself, I'm trying to dip into what I think will be most appropriate to me. I just want to be more efficient, more comfortable, and essentially injury-free. That's the goal, isn't it? So it's not for me necessarily about the pace, about the times, but it's more about being a very efficient, comfortable runner. And it sounds like utilizing some of the heart rate work, utilizing some sensible cross training.
Any sort of cross training will help a lot. Like, for example, I get it all the time when I do like aquathlons, triathlons. Like, people who just run, they say to me, "Well, I can run quicker than you. I've run quicker than you," and I say, "Yeah, but I've done that time in off the back of a hard swim or off the back of a swim and a bike." And I say to them, "Can you do that?" And one of my friends, he was like, "Oh, I could do it," and he was okay swimming, but and he was a lot faster than me in 5Ks. I'm talking about a 16-minute 5K runner, and he came off from the swim because he was, say, a few minutes behind me, but he couldn't get under 20 minutes for 5K. Yeah, so as you say, it's about making you more efficient. So definitely, swimming, I personally think will make you more efficient, and also I think it will help your technique, because it's good for the core. So you need to have a good upright technique when you're running. So it's important. Yeah. So your core needs to be strong.
It's really, the information you provide is invaluable, and I think it means more to me coming from somebody who I know has started from this kind of blank canvas, like I mentioned earlier, because hearing it from somebody who's been doing it 25 years, sometimes you can't make that connection. Whereas I feel, not only me, I'm sure many people watching this video will feel that connection to somebody who they can recognize in themselves and know that they can also begin their own personal journey. For me, for example, I thought about triathlon, but my downfall would be the cycling, just because I don't have the facility to do it at the moment, whereas I do have a local swimming pool that I could spend some time at. And it was only really in looking through your profile, understanding that aquathlon exists. Perhaps that was naive of me, but I just thought it went kind of running, triathlon, this, that,
I didn't know anything about it. The only reason I knew was a friend told me about it in 2015, who does triathlons, and he said, "Oh, I'm going to do an aquathlon tonight." I said, "What's that?" I said, "I thought you only do triathlon." He said, "Oh, it's a swim and a run." So that's how I looked into it, and didn't even know there was like a GB team or anything like that for it. But yeah, then obviously you can use it as a stepping stone to get into triathlon.
You've provided so much information. The 2020 season, how are you feeling about it? Do you feel like all the events are going to be cancelled in 2021 and start afresh, and you'll just keep training through this year? Or do you feel like some of the events that you are planning to take part in may well take place?
Well, to be honest, I don't really know. So my big race was always going to be the European Sprint Triathlon Championship. It's the only big race I was going to do, and that's the 8th of August in Malmo. Now, realistically, there's that and the World Multisport Championships a month later, which is in Holland, that are going ahead at the moment. But realistically, not being able to swim is tough. I mean, so basically at the moment I was meant to be in Lanzarote in a training camp, and I was going to come back next week. And on the 17th, I had the world qualifiers for next year. Although I hadn't decided what I was going to do next year, I wasn't sure if I was just going to spend a year concentrating just running and doing a marathon, or maybe, I'm not sure. But so this year was purely for triathlon. The only aquathlon I was going to do was the British Aquathlon Championships, which was at the end of May, which was seen really early. But that I wanted to do that because it was the first ever British Championships, and I thought I want to give it a good chance of trying to podium. So I thought about that. So that would have been in my race, and I had the National Sprint Triathlon Championships as well. So in regards to races, so a lot of my races have been moved now till August and September, and they're all clashing all over the place. So I haven't decided what races to do yet, because I don't know if they go ahead. In regards to my training, I was starting to get ready to up it and going into not the peaking cycle, but get ready into it, ready for it. So the swimming was starting to get faster, the bike was going faster, and I was getting faster to the running. So what I've done now is that I've because I can't swim, I've scaled back so I do 4 runs a week to 3 easy runs and 1 really hard run session. I only have 1 real hard day now. So my hard day is a run session and a bike session. So I have a really hard bike session. But what I've done is now I've put in an extra bike session. So I do 5 sessions a week. Again, 3 of them are easy, and then 2 are hard. One's steady and then one's hard, real hard. And then I'm doing 3 strength sessions just to replace. I did cut my swimming down this year to 3 swims, and so I've replaced it 1 bike session, 1 strength session, and I've cut out the rest, the others technically swim session. So realistically, I've gone back to sort of winter base training really. I want to obviously I don't know what's going to go on with the announcement on Sunday, but I'm hoping to, if we can, go and exercise more than once a day outside. I'm hoping to get out and on the bike, and even better if I can. Where I'm working at in a moment, I've been redeployed, so I'm working in a hospital 3 days a week. It's right by the sea, so I'm hoping that I'm able to swim in the sea as well. Because frankly, from what I'm seeing and what other countries doing, gyms and pools don't look like going to be open till September, October. So that's a dilemma. If the races can go ahead, our triathlon's going to go ahead when you can't swim. So are they going to turn into duathlons? I don't know. So I'm training, and I'm still trying to train towards trying to be competitive, and I was aiming for the top 10 at European Championships. So probably a bit unrealistic, but it was a dream come true to get into. I like to set goals high. So if that gets cancelled next coming weeks or so, I'll have to decide, maybe just keep the base training, and then hopefully do some races towards the end of the year, like some runs or so. I don't know, but it looks like I'm going to have to. Everything will be postponed for next year, because things like qualifiers and stuff, if they're not happening, then people, yeah. So I was going to have a quieter year next year. I wanted to start a family and start. Well, we wanted to start a family, but obviously we have to put it on hold at the moment. What's going on? So next year, yeah, it looks like it's probably going to be another competitive year, but not as much. But we'll have to see. So I'm
Well,
waffling.
no, not at all. So we can all look forward to following your journey. And of course, I'm going to put the social media links down below. Are you most active on Twitter? Is that the place to interact with you? Or would you say Instagram? I know you've just started a YouTube channel, or rather in the last sort of month or two. But is
Yeah.
Twitter the place to find you if we want to connect?
Twitter and Instagram. I mean, Instagram, I post a lot more about my sessions and how I'm feeling and journey. Whereas Twitter, although I post probably more on there, it's quite limited. So if I say I've gone out for a lovely 60-minute run and I've done the Zone 2 run, I might not do, you're limited to what you can say. So whereas Instagram, I'd say a bit more about it and what I've been up to and stuff.
That's amazing. You've been honestly, truly inspiring and insightful to listen to today. It's just been out of this world. And I cannot thank you enough for
Thanks,
taking
Dan.
the time out of your day to chat. So with that said, thank you again. And yeah, we all look forward to watching you continue with your accolades and achievements.
Thank you very much. Thanks.
No worries at all. Thanks a
Yes.
lot. And I
See
will
you
catch
later.
up with you soon.
Yeah. Take care. Bye.
Bye.